Whether or not you're new to the world of magic and specifically card magic, there's so many choices out there for where to start and what books to buy that it can seem overwhelming. In this episode of Erudite Magic, I'm going to be sharing 5 books that I think are essential for any card magician to study, and they certainly had a profound impact on the way I perform my card magic. During this video, I'm going to share with you why each book is on my list and some of my favorite tricks from each, so even if you have the book, you'll still get value because maybe there's a trick in there you didn't know existed. Now, normally I would only give you books that I know are in print and that you can still get your hands on, but because these books span my entire career in magic, I'm going to break that rule a little bit and share some books with you that you might have a harder time finding. But if some of these books sound appealing to you, don't worry, there is a place where you can go to find some of these harder to find and out-of-print books. That's with the sponsor of this week's episode, Don's Magic and Books. I love Don's Magic because he focuses on books, but he not only focuses on books, he specializes in books that are harder to find. So as I get into this list, or maybe you've watched some of my other videos and those books are now out of print, definitely visit Don's website via the link that I'll drop down in the description below and see if he has them. He's always getting new items in stock, but they don't usually last very long because he has such great prices and he gives free shipping if you meet certain minimum thresholds in the United States. So bookmark his website, visit often, and I'm confident that you'll find some books you'll love and will have a place in your library. Without any further ado, let's get into the 5 books that have had a profound impact on my card magic. At number 5 on my list, I have Dear Mr. Fantasy by John Bannon. Now, this book has a special place in my heart, and the why behind it is because it really bridges that gap between beginner and intermediate card magic. And the reason it's number 5 on my list is because it's one of the smaller books that I'm going to recommend, and it's a little bit specialized. You're not going to learn a ton of tricks, but the ones that are in here are really special and really good. One of my go-to criteria for any book is that it needs to be kind of fun to read, and John Bannon, I think, completely changed the game when he published this. There are write-ups and effects in here where he's teaching you a trick, but he's doing so through the lens of a story. He's at a convention, and he's sharing a trick and making fun of somebody else there at the convention who just wants to know the secret. It reads totally differently than most of the dry magical texts that we're accustomed to. Now, what do I mean when I say that it's that bridge between beginner and intermediate? What I mean by that is that some of the tricks are completely self-working, and I'll share a few of my favorites in just a second. But he also offers some pretty easy to do sleights and routines that just don't require too much by way of sleight of hand. There are some self-working card tricks in here that you'll love sharing with your friends, family, coworkers, whoever your audience is. You'll also be encouraged to work on a few easy sleights so that you can take those next steps into doing something with sleight of hand. As far as the number of tricks that I like, it's actually going to be hard to cut it down and just give you a few. I really like Beyond Fabulous, which is his take on the Henry Christ fabulous 4-ace trick. You bury the 4 aces and you find them in increasingly magical ways. By the way, he teaches a really great cull leading up to that, and it's really the only cull I've ever done. It's not hard to do, and if you put the work in to learn that sleight, you'll be able to finish that routine with a surprise climax of a royal flush production. Dead Reckoning is a completely self-working trick that just blows your mind. A card is selected, lost, the deck is mixed, the participant deals down cards, spelling their card. You tell them when to stop. You know what they were thinking, and the card that they stopped on is their card. Like I said, completely self-working and really fun to do. Dave's Game is a very fun Gemini Twins procedure. Participants deal down cards, stopping and putting a $20 bill, and then they deal down some more and put a $1 bill. The whole premise is around blackjack, and wherever they stopped, it does end up being a pair of blackjack cards, but they not only stopped on blackjack cards, they also found a royal flush for poker. There are some fun topical pieces in here, as well as some ace assembly routines with their own sense of timing. Highly recommend you check everything out in there. Unfortunately, this book is out of print. I keep hearing rumors that Gabe Fahuri with Squash Publishing will be reprinting this in the future, but if it does happen, be sure to snap up your copy of this book. Number 4 on my list is The Card Magic of Nick Trost. As you can see, this is a larger book, and it's actually a compilation of all of the best of Nick Trost work through when it was published in the mid-90s. This book is actually suitable for beginners because there's a lot of self-working tricks. That's not to say they're all self-working. There are a lot of really great ones in here, and it covers a lot of different performance plots. There are packet tricks, tricks with gaff decks, gambling routines, variations of other famous tricks like Paul Harris's Reset. So you won't have any trouble finding something that's going to work for you. And it has an appendix of sleights in the back that are going to teach you some of the basics that you need to be up and performing these tricks. Why is this book on my list? I think it is a really great beginner text because the descriptions are concise, get you going right away. They're not hard to do. It's very encouraging because they're good tricks. They're very fooling. And I personally feel like this is the type of material that can actually grow with you because you're going to start off with the self-working stuff, but as you progress through your sleights and learning different techniques, you'll be able to integrate those into these tricks. Adding a false shuffle here and there, or a control, or something like that. These are the types of tricks that just get better with experience. Some of my favorites that are taught in here, he teaches his 8-card brainwave, which is a packet trick done with 8 cards. The participant chooses the only card with the odd colored back. The spectator's card trick is a neat hands-off trick I do fairly frequently. And if you want a really amazing trick finding a participant's card, check out Lost and Found on page 136. It's completely self-working, but totally impossible. And I think there are some ways to do this trick beyond the way he does, potentially using a one-way deck. I'll leave that teaser for you. This book is out of print. For a while it was offered as an ebook, but from what I can tell, right now it's just not being offered anywhere. I do have hopes that it will be republished again, either as an ebook or a physical book in the near future. Number 3 on my list is Mnemonica by Juan Tamariz. It's just coincidence, but the books do seem to be getting a little bit larger. This book is even bigger than the Nick Trost book I just spoke of, and it is completely dedicated to memdeck work. Before you skip ahead to the next book, the reason that I have this on my list at number 3 is because the memdeck technique is an extremely powerful tool in any card worker's arsenal. And many performers will deem it to be too difficult to actually pursue. But trust me when I tell you, it's not as hard as you think. As Ozzie Wynn said in his book Repertoire, if you think about it like a foreign language, you probably know 52 different words in some other language like Spanish. It just happens. And the same thing is true of a memdeck. You're just thinking of a different word to mean the same thing in English. Anyway, the reason that I like this book as opposed to some other books about memdeck is the way it tackles the topic. You get tricks that use the full deck mnemonica. You get full deck tricks that use a variation of mnemonica, a stay stack. You get tricks that doesn't matter what stack you use. There are effects with a half stack. There are versions to help you get into stack. He even teaches tricks that can be performed and don't rely on a memdeck, but also don't disrupt a memdeck. There are tricks you can do that don't rely on having to know mathematical formulas or thinking on your feet. I just recommend this, and it made a big difference to me to take that next step into memdeck work and be able to have one more tool to perform effects that just can't be done via a shuffle deck in use. He does have a nice section in the back of the book where he teaches you some sleights and, like I said, useful tips for how to deploy your memdeck. As far as tricks that I liked in this book, Mnemonicosis is always a fun one, and if you've just learned your memdeck, this can be a neat way to get practice and work on that. He teaches in any card at any number. And if you've seen his famous Neither Blind Nor Stupid, he teaches that in here as well. The great news is Mnemonica is still in print, so you can find this book at any reputable magic dealer, and of course, I recommend you check with Don. At number 2 on my list, The Essential Die Vernon. As you can tell, this is one of the most massive card books that I've ever seen. And this contains pretty much all of the major books that he put out: the Die Vernon Book of Magic, the Inner Card Trilogy, his tribute to Nate Leipzig, Malini and His Magic, and his Symphony of the Rings. So why is this book on my list? It's there because the professor, I think, is someone that everyone needs to study at some point in their magic career. He emphasized being natural, and I think most of the tricks follow along with that. Most of it is being done with pure sleight of hand, although, of course, there are some gimmicks as well. You're just going to learn a lot of different kinds of magic. There are some wonderful texts like Card College that teach you sleights, but I think that this book is really neat because it focuses on tricks. Most people probably already have a list of Dai Vernon tricks that they like, but I learned twisting the aces and have performed that a lot over the years. You can learn that here. His out of sight, out of mind is another one taught. Several versions of Do As I Do, and the 3-card Monty with the bent corner climax where you bend the corner of the queen, and in the end, it is not the queen with the bent corner. Again, this book is out of print, but you are able to purchase the ebooks that comprise this volume, I believe on library.com, and occasionally you can find copies of the originals still out there floating around. Number 1 on my list of card trick books that had a profound effect on my magic is Lorraine, the Classic Collection, Volume 1. This book is a compilation of several of his older works, Close-Up Card Magic, Personal Secrets, My Favorite Card Tricks, and Dexterity. When I first got serious about performing magic and building my library, this was one of the first books I acquired. I knew of the reputation of Harry Lorraine as a great card magic teacher, and there were a lot of tricks that I heard people talk about that I knew were in this book, and I had to have them. Harry Lorraine was pretty much a master at teaching impromptu card miracles from a shuffled deck in use. There are tricks that use stacks or other things like that, but most of it is focused around that 52 playing cards, someone hands them to you in any order, and you go to work performing miracles. The other reason that this is number 1 on my list is his excellent teaching style. When you read a Harry Lorraine book, it feels like he's sitting right next to you, explaining the magic to you. He has a really neat way of laying out the tricks, and it's very compelling. As you can see from some of these tabs that I put in the book, I have way too many favorites to share all of them, but I'll give you a couple. Of course, you can learn his ambitious card routine, which is a good routine, but you'll also learn things like Al Karan's Lazy Man's card trick, another self-working gem that's just a beautiful piece of magic, a couple different versions of Out of This World, what I believe is the greatest card trick ever invented. My personal favorite is Impromptu Out of This World. You'll also learn the Marlowe Gardner poker deal, Vernon's Aces, which was performed by Ricky Jay on his 52 Assistants special, and many, many more. If you're serious about impromptu card magic, I really cannot recommend this book enough. Since Harry's passing, it is becoming harder and harder to get this book. You still are able to find copies out there, and I believe at one point there was a PDF version offered. I don't think you have to get this specifically, but if you can get your hands on Harry Lorraine card magic books, you should. They're well worth studying. Well, gang, that about does it. Those are the 5 books that had a profound impact on my card magic, and I think could have a profound impact on you if you give them a chance. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, keep reading.